And then he tries to change the subject to the Taliban and women's rights. And the other thing that wisdom of the staircase thing is, I wish I had said there, no, education for women is going down. But I bet you there are going to be a lot fewer boys raped to death by the warlords that our government has put in power there all these years. And people want to, people love to pretend, especially these hawks, they love to pretend that the people that America's empowered in that Afghan war for the last 20 years are a bunch of angels. And the truth of the matter is, Pete, that women and girls living in the north of the country, in the big cities, have had it much better than under the Taliban, and much better than they're going to have it now in many ways. There's no denying that, in terms of education and opportunities for employment and right protections and everything else. At the same time, though, 70%, the super duper majority of the country, don't live in big cities or cities at all. They live in small villages or, out in the countryside. The super majority population of the country. And they never had access to any of these gains. They're far more likely to get bombed by the Americans than given an opportunity to go to school by them. There's an incredible article by Anand Gopal, who wrote the wonderful book, No Good Men Among the Living, about the war in Afghanistan. And he's got this great new long form piece. It came out a couple of weeks ago in the New Yorker magazine called The Other Afghan Women. And this is the guy who gets on a motorcycle and goes down to the Helmand province and talks with them himself. And it's just incredible, man. I mean, you got to read. And the lady's talking about, the dozen or so. She just rattles off in a row, like 12 or 15 different names of different young men that she's known who've been blown up to death for no reason whatsoever in this thing. And there's rattles them all off. Well, there's my brother, and there's my cousin, and then there's my stepbrother and his son, and just on down the list. Just everybody in the neighborhood, every family has lost somebody. Everybody has lost somebody to these prowling robot assassins, and just this absolute dystopian nightmare. It's just absolutely crazy. And then, as Ann Jones, the great journalist, told me, she wrote about this back 10 years ago, that by her count, the number one priority of the Afghan National Police was chasing down runaway women and girls and bringing them back to their masters, whoever they were. And, even the parliament that America had installed in power in Kabul had passed a law a few years ago that I believe that they repealed finally under pressure, that said that men have the right to starve their wife to death if she refuses them sex and this kind of thing. So, they want to pretend like, oh yeah, no, everything was great and now everything is going to go back. But that's not right. There have been some gains for some people in some places. Meanwhile, the entire nation has been under a bombing campaign for 20 years, in the middle of a civil war for 20 years. And yes, the Taliban side of the violence is absolutely criminal as well. They use suicide tactics against innocent civilians, and you name it. I'm not taking their side in this thing at all. I'm saying, they played their role in making lives miserable for people all over that country as well. But for him to pretend that they've just gone from paradise back to hell is just not true. And read Gopal's book or read my book, Fool's Errand, and learn about who these warlords are and the crimes that they commit against these people. And seriously, never mind Gopal's book. Read that New Yorker piece, The Other Afghan Women, where they talk about the worst, absolute worst warlords that they hated, that the Taliban had come and saved them from. The Americans came and put them back in power over these people. It's just sickening, man.